episode. But let's talk about the AFC East. And is it fair to say that the last few seasons, the AFC East has run through Buffalo?
Oh, absolutely. There's no doubt about that.
And would you contend that maybe this year the Bills' window may be closing?
Oh man, it's tough. I think that you know, as long as you have a guy like Josh Allen there, I think that they've got to be in the conversation. And I was thinking about this earlier, and I don't want to go on too long about it because I know we have a lot to cover. Josh Allen reminds me a lot of John Elway, right?
That's a good
Where
comparison.
Elway was 15 years into his career before he finally won a Super Bowl, I think, or something close to that. And now, granted, he went to the Super Bowl like 2 or 3 times really early and
I think
lost.
two,
And
yeah.
yeah, and um, Josh Allen hasn't done that. He's been close, but I think that as long as you have a guy with his talent there, that it's just gonna take the right mix of guys and coaching. And I think there's always gonna be the opportunity for them to compete for a championship. And fortunately for them, the Patriots are in a rebuild. We talked a little bit about the Jets and their dysfunction, which seems like you can count on. It's like you could count on the Jets dysfunction as much as you could count on the Patriots being good under Belichick. It's just like so consistent. Um, and then obviously the emerging team is uh the Dolphins, right?
Yes.
And so obviously they paid Tua a bunch of money, so let's see what happens there. And and obviously Mike McDaniels is definitely like the new age modern version of a head football coach in the NFL. And we're gonna find out, like, is that really like, is that going to be what works, or is this sort of a fad and we'll revert back to the old crusty guys like Belichick?
Maybe it's too much to say that the window's closing, but I think the Bills look like they're going to have a down year this year. While maybe the division overall is still not as strong as it had been. And maybe it will be if Aaron Rodgers comes out and balls, then you got three really good teams there theoretically. But I feel like they are losing weapons on offense where they traded Stephon Diggs in the offseason. Now he'd be kind of become a problem, so to speak. But Josh Allen seems to be a guy that can elevate. But without Gabe Davis, without Stephon Diggs, like who else do they have? And I think that's what comes into question is can guys step up and develop? And will they be able to compete against the cream of the crop the way that they kind of sort of haven't been able to in years, right? They've gone up against the Bengals and lost. They've gone up against the Chiefs and lost. They can't seem to get over the hump in the playoffs. But the rest of the division, so the Jets, I think, are the most intriguing team because of the emergence of Aaron Rodgers again. And I don't foresee him only getting 4 snaps this year. But it's funny because year 2 is almost supposed to be like the year that they kind of put everything together, but they never got that year last year. And I just can't. They're just a franchise I can't trust overall. The Dolphins are kind of in that same camp for me too. I don't know if you've heard this stat, but I think in the last 2 seasons, Tua hasn't started all these games, but he started a majority of them. Like down the stretch, there's something like 6-15 in the last 2 seasons or something. So they're not a team that's gotten it done in crunch time, which that's coming up soon. And the Patriots are just going to be flat out bad. I mean, they traded Matthew Judon. I'm not even sure they're going to start Drake May this year. I think they're going to start Brissett because they're just rebuilding, trying to get assets, trying to get pieces. So they're going to be super, super bad.
They got the kid from Tennessee too, don't they?
Yes. Milton.
I feel like yes.
Yep.
I've heard like there's a lot of like hype about his skill set. Now, I think that people say that's always been the case with him, is his skill set's always impressed, but it just comes down to like execution in the game. When everything gets going full speed and whatnot. But
The way you said that, it's like, oh, I mean, super talented. It just comes down to performing in the game. It's like, no shit.
well, I mean, it's one thing to be able to, throw a laser. I mean,
Of course.
in 7-on-7, and then
Against
under
me
a pass rush
in a preseason
right.
game, basically.
Right. And so, but that'll be interesting. They have an interesting mix in their quarterback room, right? You have Brissett, which is like the old veteran journeyman backup that's been around, and then obviously Drake May, the first round draft pick, right? And who kind of came out he's very highly touted. Sort of that guy that's played a lot of football, that seems like he's ready, but I haven't heard a lot of positive things.
They've been
come
holding
out
him
of
back.
training camp a little bit.
Yeah.
And then obviously you got Joe Milton, who's got, like I said, the kind of fireworks of a skill set a little bit. And so I think you got 3 very different football players. And so it'll be very interesting to see kind of how that shakes itself out over the
Yeah.
course of the season, especially if injuries create opportunities for some of those other guys.
Yeah, and it's a year for development. But I think the AFC East, to me, doesn't feel like the Bills' division to lose this year. I think that it could be up. It just depends on what happens with injuries and how things go. But